Welcome to the Midsters Podcast, your podcast for inspiration on being bold and saying yes to making the most of your midlife. Hi, Evan. Good morning.
Great morning.
Thank you for joining us. I think you're probably going to be the funnest guest we've had.
I'm sure there's plenty of fun to be had.
And we're different ages. There's a few decades between us, you and I. But I love what you're doing and the clients that you're helping, because you're actually helping individuals to craft a life using the word partying, bringing it back into their lives, no matter what decade they're in, to have the best joyful life and live with vitality. And so I'd like you to introduce yourself. I actually don't know what path took you there, so I'm interested about that as well. And then hopefully you can leave a lot for listeners on how to start curating their own life in a way that they can have some more joy.
Of course. Well, thank you so much for having me today. What's up, y'all? My name's Evan. I'm known as the world's first party coach, although even that is a little bit of a joke. I try not to take myself too seriously because I believe that the party teaches me, the party teaches you. A big thing that I like to think about that might be valuable to your listeners is I help people stop hiding in their own lives. And sometimes as we age, I'm about to be 40 this year, which for me is, I love my age. I'm very excited about it, but it's the time of age. I'm starting to have friends right now who they want to hide from the world more now. And they feel like they don't deserve to have fun, or they don't belong in certain places. And I believe that every human that's on this earth deserves to live a full life, deserves to be at a party, to have a party that fills them up with feeling human together. And I got here because I spent a lot of time. I was the person who couldn't leave the party. So I've spent time as like a frat boy, and then I turned into a raver, and then I worked in the music industry. I worked in LA and New York, and now I'm in Chicago. And I was always at the 3-day long parties because I loved that, but I couldn't stop partying. And so I had to learn how to build a balanced life where I was kind of hiding at the party because I was using alcohol and drugs or substances to kind of cover up who I was. I actually was able to go off and party completely sober for 2 years and realize, like, what is it like to not hide when we go to places behind alcohol and substances. And now I'm completely agnostic. Whatever you choose to do at a party, I think is great. But I'm here to just pull back on what are we hiding when we hide from the world, and how can partying help us be more seen?
How'd you get into the business? So you just told me a lot of history. Did you just realize that you wanted to help other people be able to get to the place that you're at and find enjoyment no matter what?
Yeah. Ultimately, I was one of those people that was obsessed with, what's my purpose? What am I supposed to do on this planet? And I'm a little less concerned about that now, but as I've been able to share my love of partying, what I love, I get messages every day from people all around the globe who are maybe going to a rave for the first time in 10 years, or are choosing to create a walk party, right? So I have people that start a party where they just go on walks on Friday mornings with their friends, and they turn that into the party. And so redefining what party means for them so that they can be seen in the world, that's kind of what got me into it, because I needed to connect with people instead of just escape into my own like pleasure and fun.
When you use the word party, I'm trying to understand what that means to you. What are the essentials of what it means to be part of a party?
Yeah. So I'd love to turn that back on you both first. Yeah. How do you guys think about party? What's the last good party that you've been to?
Yeah, birthday party is like, it doesn't matter what age. I mean, you're teaching a 1-year-old to have a birthday party. So it is just what you said, bringing people together. It could be a walk, it could be a birthday party, but enjoying a shared experience in which you're kind of out of your normal element. You've got endorphins going, oxytocin going, because you're feeding off each other in this wonderful celebratory kind of way. That's what I think of as a party. But it can be mild too. It can be mahjong. What
Yeah. Yeah.
about you, Leslie Ann?
Oh, I think you covered it. I would think a group of people with an expectation of um, joy and a sort of an outside the normal day to day, doing something outside the normal day to day experience.
I love that. So I heard a couple of things here too, because I have a working definition that I'm always evolving with partying. Because it can't be everything, right? But I heard from you, like, a group is really important, right? There's some sort of a shared experience, and there's some sort of like shifted. Well, I call it. So one of the ways I define partying is a temporary shift of frequency with a group.
Oh, I love that word,
Yeah.
shift of frequency. Yes.
And I use frequency because, as you were talking, like the oxytocin, or sort, we can get there sometimes. A birthday party or something like that, we'll get that flutter in our stomach. We'll feel. Sometimes, yes, it's having a couple beers with your friends, right? And that's the shift of frequency. But a party has to end is the other thing too. And sometimes people say, "Hey, you must love being a party coach. You must party all the time." And it's really important that not every day or every minute is a party for me. That it is a special occasion. That we can't be in this altered state or this frequency all the time, because it reduces the meaning of what the party actually is. So allowing, if you're listening to this right now and this all sounds a little woo-woo to you, I just invite you to think about what are those moments or times that like create a memory for you, right? What is that thing that shift of frequency that actually creates that memory in your head, and think about it that way.
Let me ask you this, Evan, because I know you work with a lot of people, and as people approach different decades in their life, I'm 59, so I'll be going into my 60s. And you probably talk to people or have clients in their 50s, 60s, 70s. What are the types of parties that they like talk to you about? What are they creating that is giving them, or not just purpose, but I think there is a purpose to that as well. But I'm just curious. I know for me, I love boating. I bring a lot of women together. We just were in Canada. Leslie Ann and I had a group in Canada. We go up in Maine. What are other people doing that we might be missing out on?
Yeah. So I have this process called the Party Within, which is a 7-stage process. And the beginning of the process is a lot of clearing space, kind of clearing away identities or the nostalgia of things in the past. And I think that's important too, because as we age, if we're always trying to recreate something that happened in the past, it's not always as fun, or we feel we get stuck in that. So one of the things that I see people do in stages 5 and 6 of this process, which are called Find Your Tribe and Host Your Ceremony, it's trying to bring them around. Who are the types of people that you want to be around? So sometimes that's people of a similar age or experience, but sometimes it's multi-generational, right? They might want to have more different ages or people around them. So thinking about what is that tribe, or who do you want to be around first, and then starting to create around that. So I've had people do things like start moon circles, like a women's only moon circle, but it's multi-generational, right? And so it's multi-generations that are sharing wisdom and sharing their experiences around these things. It can be really powerful. And then I also have people doing the things like the walks or card games, but even things like like salsa dance classes or things around that, where they're creating something that surrounds them with people that they feel a part of that tribe.
I know I puts you at 5 and 6, I think, maybe 6 or 7. But will you go through those steps? Because you have them on your website. We can tell
Yeah.
listeners where to find them. But I actually like the way you identify the steps because a lot of people don't know how to get there.
Yes. And so to begin with, this process is called the Party Within. That's a 7-stage process to hide less and live more. This has been developed over about 6 years, not just by me, but by hundreds of clients who have gone through this process. I've had really great mentors and teachers who have done versions of this, but it's something that's meant to be kind of repeated and shifted as you change, but briefly going through the steps. So stage 1 is detoxify positivity. And this is the line of kind of stepping back and clearing space. So I invite people to, take about 48 hours to 72 hours away from social media, away from
Mm.
a lot of the stimulation that we might get in the world, and just re-listen to what is your heart trying to tell you, instead of, constantly getting these stimulations from the world. Stage 2 is called stop chasing nostalgia, or kind of like make peace with ghosts. And this is letting go of those past identities, as we talked a little bit before. So maybe you have this identity of I'm an introvert or I'm an extrovert. What does it mean to let go of that? What might it mean to live in the world with a little bit of a different identity? Create space for that. Stage 3 is called Spark the Body. And this creates a 21-day habit challenge that invites you to kind of get out of your head and into your body. And these are things like moving into a whole foods diet for 21 days, starting your day with the best you can, like a cold shower. So it's starting with a little bit of discomfort in your life, and complimenting strangers every day, starting to call up friends every day. Just call. And it's trying to do some uncomfortable things that are training you to get out of that idea of, oh, people don't want to hear from me, or, oh, I'm a burden to other people. And it starts to just teach your body and your mind that by being a little uncomfortable and getting out of your head and into your body, your social battery is going to increase, your body's going to connect and do a lot more. So I want to pause right here on kind of these first 3 because I'm running through them. But do you have those types of habits? How do those show up for you guys in your life?
We just did a podcast that hasn't aired yet on emotional hygiene. And some of the things you're talking about right now, letting go, listening to yourself, really does resonate with me. Also, I liked when you were talking about letting go of all the social media and everything, because even though we look at it, it might be just seconds, we're absorbing all of that as a norm, and that may not be our norm. And unless we know what we're comfortable with, we're not going to be able to be authentic to ourselves and connect with, which I know you're going to talk about in a few minutes, the right tribe. So I like that disconnection to be able to think in your own head. Leslie Ann was talking earlier in this in a different podcast about basically finding it was talking about solitude and listening to yourself and have an understanding of moving forward and what you truly want. And I think that that's kind of what you're saying as well. Until you let go of all of that, you're talking about 48 hours or more. It puts you in a place, and it sounds like these 3 are important, is what you're saying, and maybe to even move forward.
And I would
Yes.
add to that, the third one you just talked about, which is like reaching out to people, contacting friends and all. Marianne and I went about a month ago to a lecture given by this woman who talks about making friendships. And one of the things she said is a lot of people stumble at making friendships because they assume that people don't want to be friends with them, and how important it is to sort of change that assumption. And I think I sort of heard a little overlap in that, right? Like, assume people want to hear from you. Don't wait for them to reach out. You be the one to reach out to them.
Yes. And this could be very difficult because I see a lot of things on social media nowadays that are, they said like, oh, when I stopped reaching out to people, they don't reach back, and that means they were never real friends. And I just, I think it's a superpower to have the energy to connect with people.
It
and
is.
and my life gets bigger and better and greater when I do the uncomfortable thing. And maybe I don't always have the energy, but I don't judge my friends, because I've sometimes had friends that disappeared for 4 to 5 years and they resurface because they're going through stuff that I just wasn't able to be there with, right? And it's such a joy to have people come back into my life because I didn't write them off or, make their lack of energy at a given moment mean something about me. I just got to keep living my life bigger and growing. And that's my also invitation, I think, as we age, is we carry all of these things and it feels like wisdom, but sometimes it weighs us down with all the things that we make these things mean, when we still have so much more like life and energy that we have to share with each other.
To
Yeah.
borrow your phrase, shifting frequency, right? Sometimes your frequency is to be in receptive mode, and sometimes it's to be in transmitting mode. And maybe sometimes you are the transmitter, and that's okay.
Yes. I'm so glad you brought up this point too, because what was on the back of my mind on this, I was just reading this moment. I read from the Tao Te Ching. Have you ever read
Yeah.
any of that? Like Taoist? Yeah. And I think it's verse 2 or 3 talks about, you know, the the value of a vase is not is not the ceramic, it's the space in between. It's the empty space that we get to fill, right? The value thing of a wheel is all the spokes coming to the center, but we have this empty space that gets to rotate around. And why the early parts of this Party Within program are about clearing that space is reminding us that, yes, being in that receptive mode of realizing that we do deserve to be loved and connected with. And there's parts of ourselves that when we clear out all of this gunk, that our value is to be receptive just as much as it is to put it out there, that's really important. And I think sometimes we can want to be more, be more, be more, and people will like us. Sometimes the value is clearing that away and allowing people to um, flow into us.
I agree, because then it illuminates you. There's light in that as well, and it's you say the word party, and I agree with party, but I also think, to me, it's joy as well, like finding the joy in things. Okay, can you go further and tell us the rest of the steps?
Of course. So step 4 is drop the armor.
Mm.
And so this is about those pieces of armor that we have when we go into a social situation. Maybe it's, for some people, it's like the first thing I do is I go get a drink, or I have to have my glass of wine in my hand. Or sometimes it's being very extroverted and big, and I tend to want to like manipulate and control the room with my charm. And learning to let go of that, drop that armor, admit that I'm just as anxious and nervous as a lot of other people there. But that vulnerability, dropping the armor, allows those friendships to actually become real. Because I want to not push back, but while joy is the foundation for a lot of things, I think very few meaningful relationships are built and maintained on joy alone. We have to go through pain. We have to go through friction. We have to have our suitcase lost by the airline. And we have to be in those moments where we go through pain and kind of messiness with other people. While we drop that armor, that allows trust to be built and allows the friendship to continue.
Yeah. So that was step 4?
Yeah. Step 4. Step 5 is moving into, what does that tribe look like? So how are you building your tribe? What does your tribe maybe look like in the past? Did you fulfill a specific role in the past? Maybe moving from matriarch and patriarch into, maybe you want to, become a newcomer. Do you want to be somewhere where you're the beginner, or shift that? But what do you want your tribe to look like or feel like? as in this next stage of whatever your party is. So we do some writing and a lot of clarification around what that feels like.
Does that change with people at different ages? I mean, do you feel that
Very
some
much
people
so.
are more resistant to it as they get older, or they're more set in their ways of the type of people that they feel they should be with, but yet obviously they've hired you, so maybe they're not with the people they need to. But I'm just curious age-wise if that plays into anything or even gender.
Yes, very much so. And I've learned to be a better coach to not prescribe and say, hey, this is what you need or wishes you have, but really just keep asking the questions. The one that I always come back to is, where do you feel like you're still hiding?
Ah,
Where are you hiding parts of yourself, or where do you feel like you need to hide? And through that question, usually more starts to come to light of, oh, I've always felt like I needed to be, perhaps it's the put together person who plans everything, right? But I'm hiding behind that, and what I really want is someone to plan for me. And I want someone to look out for my needs and my wants. And so to find that area where people feel like they have to hide or they've been hiding allows them to be more vulnerable, drop that armor, and figure out what that tribe might look like for them.
I think we as humans tend to gravitate to people that in some way reflect ourselves. So, similar point of view, similar age, similar gender, just some point of similarity, which is helpful because it eases the social transaction, right? But I think part of what's plaguing our society today is we've taken that to an extreme, and it's useful to try to actually seek out the opposite and try to find people with whom you don't have a lot of commonality and making that your tribe. I think you learn. I'm just theorizing here. You may have some experience in this, I would think. You learn more about yourself, but you also learn a lot more about the world, and it makes it a very different kind of party if you are opening yourself up to that.
Yes, this is one of my favorite conversations, and it actually brings back an interesting etymology of the word party. So the word party is in some ways a contronym in that it means its own opposite. So if you trace the word party back, it somewhat comes from like partir, to split, right? So you think of like a hunting party is like a group of people that splits off from the main party, right? And but it creates this new sense of identity inside that party, right? We have something in common as this new piece of a party. And it can be confusing because we want to always feel belonging. We want to feel a part of, but we have to create separateness to feel belonging as we step into those places. And so I love partying as a metaphor for I still go to a lot of dances and festivals and big parties, and we're usually there for a similar type of music, right? There's like house music. But I will be on a dance floor with people of all different ages, people who don't look like me, people who don't think like me, people of very different political backgrounds and opinions, and we're all dancing to the exact same beat and the exact same music, and none of us know any of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I've gone, met people and become friends with them, and learned later, I was like, wow, if I would have known your opinions, I would not have been friends with you. But I have my heart became open. And I shared that beat with them. And I feel like I have very wide openness about how I feel about people that I would not have had without these little parties, these split offs that I have around a common goal, but then unite me around some bigger things.
I like that. I
Mm-hmm.
think about one of my tribes, which is there's one common thread, but not much else, and it's my extended family. So I'm very close to my aunts, my cousins, my second cousins. I have a whole tribe there. We share the same bloodline, but we are so different. Grew up in different households, different states, even different countries. But I love the fact that I get to be with them because of that one thing, but nothing else. And I benefit. And we do have a party every time we get together. Well, you know a lot of my extended family, but it's like you're saying, if I knew other pieces of them and that bloodline didn't bring us together, there are probably people I wouldn't even know, because that's the commonality in us. Some grew up on farms, some grew up different socioeconomic, like I said, even different countries, but it's that one piece. So I think it's nice that when people can find a group like the dance floor that you're talking about, that's the one thing. And it's not, everything else is not exclusionary because you've bonded on that.
Yes. I think that's so beautiful, and tying together a couple things that we've talked about. We're living in an age where algorithms are uniting us with people, things that we like, right? Joy and things that which is beautiful. But if there's not that friction, if there's not that kind of conflict of what's tying us behind what we just like, I think that can lead to some of the feelings of like disconnection or loneliness that can happen out of this. So again, these are too big of problems for me to solve, but I like using partying as kind of a surprising metaphor for ways to think about people. Am I surrounding myself with just things that I like, and is that good for me, or is that causing me to feel more like lonely or isolated because I don't have the friction of some other things in my life?
I like that. So what number are we on? 6 or 7?
5. So now,
5,
yes, we're
okay.
entering 6. Yeah. So if we just did 5, which is the tribe,
These are great,
6, which is
Evan.
Yeah, this is really great.
oh, thank you so much for having me on. I can't believe this is my job. I get to do this. And this is my favorite number, is number 6, which is host your ceremony.
Mm.
And this is the most kind of action oriented. And this is kind of what we talked about, which is I help people create something that they can host that feels to them that's going to help build that tribe, and create something for them that is going to be more sustainable. So some examples of this, we've talked about some of them, like a moon circle, right? Something that you can host, but I like to try to create something for people that it's not going to cause them a lot of stress to host and do it. It's something that can be repeatable, optimally at least once a month. Sometimes people do something weekly or bi-weekly, but it should be enough that you can invite. If you're at a wedding and you meet someone at that wedding who seems kind of interesting and cool, and you could say, hey, I host this moon ceremony once a month. Would you be interested in coming to this with me? And it's something that you feel comfortable inviting people to, but if they come, great. If not, it's not going to make you go crazy. But being able to invite and grow and build something sustainable that is kind of yours, that's building this tribe, watching people create this and seeing what happens to their lives, to see them be supported, and to see this ceremony grow out of something that they built and made space for over these, like, that's the party within. Because ultimately, the party within is about sharing the kind of the energy that the universe is giving to us to be human with other humans. And when you create a space for other people to come and share that, it becomes not something that is draining you, which I think a lot of people feel like their social events are draining them. But optimally, this becomes something that is replenishing you and is filling you up with excitement for the world. And ultimately, a lot of times, then this ceremony becomes something, and then you're able to hand off leadership, and it grows into something that's not just yours, but is then shared as a part of that tribe.
That's wonderful. Leslie Ann and I do something similar. That's an annual trip up on the coast of Maine. And we've created quite a tribe over 5 years. It's usually about 20 women or so,
Cool.
but it's this shared experience and it's amazing.
And it's there are people that come every year, and there are always new people that come. So the tribe shifts a little. It's actually really great.
But yeah, it's a week on the Penobscot Bay out of Camden, Maine. And yeah, we do activities, but it's what you're talking about. It's something that is really dear to us, but has become very valuable to others as well.
Yeah.
I think it's what I like is there's a potential element of whimsy here in what you choose to have your what do you call it, your ceremony be.
Hmm.
This ended, and I'm kind of sad that it did, but it ended because people moved away. But many, many years ago, I was the Girl Scout troop leader for my daughter's Girl Scout troop. And when the girls aged out of Girl Scouting, the moms still really loved each other. So we actually created what we called Fifth Sunday Club. And Fifth Sunday Club was every month in which there was a fifth Sunday, and there were like 3 or 4 of them a year. We would get together as moms and do an activity that mimicked things the girls did as scouts. So we like went on a hike one day, we went kayaking one day, we visited like a horse farm. We did things that the girls had done or things similar to what the
It's
girls had done,
fun.
just as a way of staying bonded together as moms and having that like that set date be fifth Sundays was was actually really useful. But then, like I said, people moved away, so it's
That is
ended.
clever.
Yeah, it was actually
I
very fun.
yes. Oh, can I please steal that? I'm going to, or at least I'm at the story. I love that as a story, and it's so valuable. Thank you. That's exactly what this is about. Yes, that's great.
What are some, besides the Moon Club, what are other things that people might do as far as hosting their ceremony?
So I'm in Chicago now, but I lived in Los Angeles. I was around a lot of like actors and dancers, and so one of them created a shuffle club, so they would learn how to do kind of like the shuffle dancing,
I
and
would
they
have
would invite
joined.
people to that. Yeah, yeah. So that was really fun. I've had someone else who he's in Nashville and loves to do these spelunking trips where they
Yeah,
go into
yeah.
the caves and do those types of things, but he combined it with music. So they would create these like playlists of house music and stuff there, and they would bring that along with them to do that. Oh, sauna. Some people that are really into like going to the sauna and doing
Yeah.
things around they're very healing for them. I hosted, I'm in Chicago now, and I hosted this thing. I called it Revive, which was a Sunday day party where we bring in a sauna and an ice plunge and some house music. And it would be from like 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Sundays. And the idea was we want to revive you before the week. So you optimally leave this feeling like more energized on a Sunday instead of feeling depleted.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. So yeah, a couple examples of what that feels like, and this is a great transition into stage 7, which is party for life, which is about what happens when nobody shows up,
Mm.
what happens when you burn out, what happens when your life, you know, a family member dies, like what happens when life happens on this, and it creates, and this is born out of my own like self-resilience where I was like, I have to do everything myself and constantly burning out. We create during step 7, we create help protocols. So we literally create 3 to 4 people or groups or tribes and say, this is someone that I can go and ask for help. I let them know, hey, I'm gonna ask for help one time in life, and this is how I'm gonna ask for that help. And we actually practice those practices of how do we go through that and develop ways so that we're not facing all of this alone, because the party within ultimately is part of that tribe. Because I've noticed so many people are so afraid to ask for help, or when stuff doesn't go well, they internalize all of that. And so actually practicing asking for help and learning how to party for life, because you don't have to do it all yourself, that's one of the biggest takeaways.
I like that you end with that because it is life, right? I'm dealing with aging parents right now that don't know really how to ask for help and found themselves in a really bad situation. And I want to make sure that I have the strength and the courage, because I think it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability to be in a place to reach out to a friend or a family member and actually say, I know that you've seen me all these years in this great place where I've enjoyed life. Things have been wonderful, but you know what? Not right now. But it takes a lot.
Mhm.
It takes a lot to do
Yes.
that. And it's interesting that you have so many great steps in building up this life in which you can have enjoyment, but yet you're allowing that last step to kind of rekindle, get the strength to actually come back and be able to do that by sharing what your most vulnerable state is at the time.
And when you said
Yes.
party for life, I actually thought you were going in a slightly different direction, which is if you develop a life mindset to constantly join the party itself might change a lot, right? It might be one thing in one decade of your life and something completely different later. But if you're committed to the process, then you follow that wherever it leads you. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Like
But life can happen.
life can happen and it can
Yeah.
change what your ability or interest or your tribe might shift, but you can still keep finding the party to belong to.
Yes, and the party for life too, and this asking for help is the acknowledgement that when these steps or stages are completed, you're able to go back to stage one, and you probably should go back to stage one and revisit these because you're
But
probably already a different person.
Right.
but you're allowing that human connection even in state 7, which I think that everything you just talked about is human connection.
Mhm.
And even in the worst of times, that is what's gonna catapult you forward back into a good state. I love that. You've been a pleasure to have on this podcast, by the way.
Yeah, this is
Oh
a great
gosh, well thank you so.
I
Yeah.
love your paradigm, the whole party thing. It's a great way of looking at how to how to make your life more meaningful.
You know, we have somebody, Evan, here in the studio that you might have seen earlier. Her name's Elizabeth. She's your age. She's an 80s girl, too. And
Nice.
she sometimes has questions. I'm putting her on the spot. I don't know if she has questions for you. But she says she has one. Do you mind?
Of course, please.
Okay.
All right, this is my question. And this is a personal question for you, but I think it'll help our audience, especially those that are entering midlife. Um, if you look back at your 20s, 30s, and now you're entering your 40s, how has what you were really seeking in those moments changed over time for you personally?
Oh, what a lovely question. What has what I've been seeking changed? I'll try to answer this in the frame of the party scene. I think I was always seeking belonging. I But I was praised for different things in different areas of my life. Very early on, I was told I was the golden child, who I was a musician and an actor and I could be on stage. And I was seeking belonging by, trying to perform and trying to be the center of attention. And I was like, if I could just get enough attention from people, then I'll belong. But I think that led to burnout, and it led to cocaine. It led to, okay, I have to constantly be performing and be up and be this person for people. And I got to be beaten down by that and find out that yes, there was real belonging there, but there was a lot of fake belonging. And in my 30s, the great lesson was maybe what does it mean to be a little bit more receptive? Yes, kind of maybe the more feminine side of what I am, but learning to seek ways to ground myself to be of service, to be a coach, to raise other people up, to be a mentor, to train other people, and to watch them go off and create things and be. And now I think I'm learning how to integrate those two, because I've gotten lost a little bit in the I get so service oriented that I might lose myself, or I lose all my boundaries, or I'm just constantly giving too much of myself. I feel like I've reached this really cool integration point where I get to do what we're doing right here, which feels like a conversation. I feel like I've received a lot from, like, I got it's so cool to hear that you all have created your own versions of these things in your own lives,
Yeah.
right? In what you're doing, but we get to share and sort of have more of a conversation that feels like an equal sharing of these things. And so I think that's what I'm seeking right now, is what is a more equal collaboration.
I
You know,
love that.
and I think that's a great question. And if you don't mind, Elizabeth, I kind of want to say something about that, because I think for the primarily, but not exclusively, female audience, midlife female audience that we speak to, um, I think there's some commonality in this, in that from my 20s, mid 20s to my mid 30s, my focus was mostly on building my career, and the people that I drew around myself, and the parties that I joined, if you will, were really about that work community, and about um, creating contacts and connections that I thought would propel that forward. But in my mid 30s into my 50s, really, that shifted completely because I had children. And then my focus became on building a community, building a tribe around my children and the people that surrounded them, because I wanted them to have an easier place in the world, and also to model for them what it looked like to be part of a community. So it had to be a community that they could relate to in some way. And I definitely completely focused on that. And that meant that a lot of the people I spent time with were the parents of my children's friends, and or people that were churchgoers. So it was people at church, because our kids knew the people from church. That became sort of the center. My 50s moving into my 60s, it became much more me-centered and about what I wanted to do. And that's really when we took off with a lot of the stuff we're doing
Right.
now, with photography and traveling,
Yeah.
because it's like, okay, the kids are about to leave home. My work life is of necessity winding down as I get older. So what is going to be next for me? And so I started shifting my focus to things that were more me, and my community changed around that. So the point, which I would think was implicit in your question and also in your answer, Evan, is that you have to accept and embrace that this is a process that is going to keep shifting and changing as life goes on.
And Evan, when you started talking about your 20s, I will say I've come full circle. So now going into my 60s, it's those things prior to 20. It's walking in the grass, it's picking dandelions, it's getting out on the water, it's looking at beautiful things through my camera. It's those adventurous, I used to love summer camp. I used to love the little adventures. I'd get friends together and walk through the woods and go fishing. So I've come back to all those things, which I think is interesting, and finding my tribe. And like Leslie Ann and I have built a tribe on those things, because we're embracing before our 20s now. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it goes back full circle.
She kind of likes theater, and you used to say that you would, I think it was the front porch, you'd bring friends together and they would play out
We used
things.
to do plays
And
on the
so
porch.
some of the activities on the boat, she does it. She's got theme nights.
Yes.
I also call a really mean maritime bingo.
That's true. That's true. You've been such a pleasure. I hope you'll come back and talk to us.
Oh, I would love that. Yeah, and we'll have to create a ceremony
We
sometime.
would. Oh,
Someday.
that's a great
So-
idea. Evan, for our listeners, you've given them a lot today. Thank you for that. Can you tell them where to find you, like on Instagram, but also you have a really nice website. You just actually talked a lot about it, and you have a website. You give a lot away, a lot of information away for people to be able to start this process themselves. I know that you're for hire and you will work as a coach with them as well. And I think a lot of people probably would need that accountability. But where can they find you?
Beautiful. First of all, just thanks again so much for having me. You can search partycoach.me is my website. And if you just put Party Coach into Instagram or TikTok or anywhere, you'll see videos usually of me dancing, very silly. I just try to dance every day and just spread joy that way. That's how it comes out. And while I do coaching, my hope of doing this is just to awaken anyone who's listening to this here right now. You don't need a coach. You don't need permission. The party is within you. And even if that is just, complimenting a stranger today or shedding an identity or dancing in line at the coffee shop, that would make me very happy. So thank you.
For listeners, I hope you get a lot out of this today. I know I have. You know where to find Evan, but you can also find us on AmericanMidsters.com.